Surprise, family. I didn't tell them that I was speaking today. Oh, hello, Casey and Jesse, who couldn't be with us today. Oh, good morning and happy Mother's Day to all your mothers. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dawn Greathouse, and for as long as I can remember, God has placed it on my heart that I wanted to be a mom. And I've been looking for tissues, and I haven't seen any here this morning. So you may need to run one up to me here. When I was about, 13 years old, we had a family that lost their mom. And this family was a large family, and several of them were still small children at home. And I can remember walking to their house and helping them to clean their house and helping to cook meals for them. Now, I was 13, so it's hard to tell what those poor children had to eat. In 1984, Tim and I married, and within a few years, we decided that we wanted to start our family. And that didn't happen. So eventually we ended up to doctors, and they said that we would not be able to have children. Surprise. So I was devastated. Within a few years, we decided that we would become foster parents. And we went through all the classes, and the last class, I left. I don't even think we finished the class. And I said, Tim, I can't do this. I can't do it. So later that night, we watched a movie about a little foster girl. Deep breath. And her name was Tella. And I cried, and I said, if I ever have a child, I didn't say a daughter, but I said a child, I'll name her Tella. I just knew. I didn't know, but I knew that it would be a girl. So a few years later, we found out that we were pregnant and told our families on Christmas Eve. And later that night, we began to have a miscarriage. And on Christmas Day of '88, we lost that child. It was devastating. Then we found out we were pregnant again. And I was excited and scared to death and all of the emotions. And on May 11th, today, Tella Dawn was born, and she laughs now, and she says that the baby of the family, Dubali, is spoiled, but she has no idea how we doted on her. Actually, Tim and I bought 2 rocking chairs because we both wanted to rock her. We couldn't share, so. In 1994, we welcomed our second daughter, Casey Lynn, to our family. She's our little redheaded firecracker, for those of you who know her. She has the most beautiful red hair and the most beautiful porcelain skin. Through the years, Tella kept asking for a big brother, and I would say, Tella, you're the oldest, you can't have a big brother. Because Tim and I weren't Christians at this time, but we didn't take good care of our marriage or ourselves, and we ended up divorcing in 1996. This was all I refer to as BC. It was before Christ. This was an exhausting time. Not only did we have the diapers and all that, we had all of this extra stuff, and it was a roller coaster, but God was still in control and walking with us through that. He placed a lady in our lives. Her name is Janice White, and she was a babysitter for the girls, and she continued to ask the girls and I to come to supper on Wednesday evenings at church. I would say no, 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 but finally I was so exhausted one night that the girls and I went. That led to us going to church services, and the Lord just continued to grow and to heal us, heal me, and to save me. In accepting Christ, that changed. We were going in this direction, and it totally sent us the whole trajectory of our lives and many others' lives now. It wasn't thinking at that time that it was kind of just thinking that it was our lives, but it wasn't. Tim began attending church with us and accepted the Lord, and we remarried in 2000. We moved to New Martinsville, and I knew as a young Christian that I needed to have a friend. I prayed to God for a friend to come alongside of me. Well, God always does much more than you ask him to, and he gave me a family. Some of those are still strong, close friends of ours today. The power of a strong Christian base is so vital. I just encourage you in that. Just remember the wise man who built his house upon the rock of God. When the storms came, he was able to withstand that through God. Then foster care connections came back to us, and God placed 3 young ladies in our family for a year each. Thankfully, one of them, Jessie Parks now, is still able to, we've still been able to remain in contact with her, and I'm so thankful for that. Even though we were not able to adopt Jessie, God let her stay in our family. And she is a wonderful mother. She doesn't think she is, but she is an amazing mother. She and her husband, John, have Carter and Cora, and they're just beautiful. They're a beautiful family. Our lives are a walking testimony to God's healing, his grace, and his restoration. Now, at this point, Tell is a teenager, so you would think she would stop asking for a big brother, right? No. In 2009, our friends were adopting from Ethiopia. There are 3 children. They had 1 at home. So we ended up, Tella and Casey and I ended up going with them to pick up their children, and my heart broke for these children. And I fell in love with Ethiopia and with its people. When we came back, God told me that he wanted us to adopt, and I said, I'm going to do travel nursing. I'm going to buy a red Mustang convertible. And God knew that each one of us was needed, because Tella had asked continually throughout her life, but he knew that Casey Lynn needed to be with us too, because she doesn't give up easily. We'll just put it that way. In August of 2009, we applied to adopt from Ethiopia a son or sons, and the day after Mother's Day in 2010, and I'll have to threaten Tella if she tells the whole story about this day. I was not having a good day that day, but we got a referral call, and in August of 2010, we traveled as a family. Each of the girls, Tim and I, and Justin, they weren't married yet, went and picked up Dubally Wade. I was concerned at that time that Dubally and I wouldn't bond together. And I prayed about that, but God knew that. He walked us through all of that, just like he had everything else in our lives. And what a blessing. And God knew that we needed Dumali in our family. And it was always part of his plan. I believe that. I can tell you of many things that have happened throughout our lives that have pointed to that. Dumali is graduating in a couple of weeks from high school and plans to attend University of Charleston. Tim has always said to me that it's not fair that I have given all of our kids my name because it's Teledon, Casey Lynn, and Dumali Wade, which was my maiden name. And I just say, I can't help it if you weren't very creative and gave them all your last name. Well, I'd given all of my names away, so I thought God was finished growing our family. But no. Next, God gave us Justin. Yeah, that's what I say too. And Tella and Justin have given us Benaiah, Azariah, and Kenaniah, and soon, hopefully, they'll be getting their own referral call. And then God grew our family through our second son-in-law, Wes. And Wes and Casey have given us Isabella, Liam, and Jace. So that I say, okay, God, are you finished yet? No. Next, he gave us Megan, who is so special to us. And she's married to Josh. Josh's mom is actually here today. And we have Micah and Carla. Then, he wasn't finished yet. He gave us Candace. She's our other little firecracker. And Candace and her husband, Ben, have Chris and Desi. We are completely blessed to do life with all of our kiddos and all of our grandkiddos. Each of these ladies are such exceptional mothers, and I'm so proud of all of them. I think that motherhood is built on those around us, our mothers, our grandmothers, our friends who I actually have one that I can call anytime, her or her husband, and they will lovingly tell me the truth and listen to me and guide me, and I'm so thankful for that because you need people around you. One of the deepest desires as a young woman for me was to be a mom. We struggled for a period with infertility, and I know that some of you still do today, and my heart hurts for you, and I pray for you. Your pain and all the emotions are real. I encourage you, though, to take these to God, no matter how messy they are. Don't turn away from Him. He has a plan for your future. Trust Him, listen to Him, stay open to His word and to His voice. And to those who are blessed to be called mom, love them well. Raise them in your community of Christians because it makes all the difference. Thank you.
Happy Mother's Day. My name is Carla Hudson, and this is my testimony. I said I wasn't going to cry. No, sorry. I have a very special son. When I was asked to do this, I immediately said, let me pray over it, and I will let you know. I then went to prayer for a few days. This is my family and our pictures behind us. God started me thinking about Mary and how scared she must have been in her situation as a young and unwed mother. Back in those days, she could have been killed for that, and I thought, I can surely get up here and tell my testimony. I look back at myself as an expecting mom, the excitement, the fears that come with pregnancy. I made sure to eat right, not to take over-the-counter medications, don't eat fish more than once a week, all the things you're supposed to do. But God had bigger plans for me than I knew. I finally felt God telling me to say yes to tell my testimony. Some close to me know this story. This is my testimony of a very special young man you can see in the wheelchair. I was blessed. God allowed me to birth 2 beautiful boys, Levi, our oldest, and Colt, our youngest. Levi was a typical kiddo, rotten, cute, happy, full of joy, always smiling. One of our neighbors always called him Smiley because that was pretty much him. Matt and I waited for 4 years after we had Levi before we had another, or tried to have another. I miscarried that one around 12 weeks along, and we talked and decided that 1 child was enough. I've heard many times, I think Jonathan even said this last week, if you want to hear God laugh, tell him your plans. He had bigger plans for us. Colt came into this world rough from the start. I almost died giving birth to him. I had to have 9 units of blood, a full hysterectomy, and woke up in the ICU. My husband was by my side, and I simply said, "Is the baby okay?" He said, yes, he was. At this time in my life, I was young in my walk with Christ. I was not raised in a church. I married into a faithful family that inspired me to walk with Jesus. I started attending church regularly in 1996 and was baptized in August of 1997. Colt was born in 2003. He was needy. He cried a lot. We just could not make the poor kiddo happy. When we were around 6 months old, I started noticing him missing milestones. I talked to the doctor, and he wasn't overly concerned at first. When we went back for his year checkup, that's when it all started. He said we need to make an appointment with a neurologist. The pediatrician immediately called me back and said they could get us into Morgantown in August. This was January. I said no. Call Columbus and see if we can get him in sooner. I did. We had an appointment in 6 weeks. They were going to do some testing on him for a syndrome called Angelman syndrome. I knew as soon as they described it, he hit every mark. The neurologist knew what to look for. She had many kids with Angelman syndrome. Thank you. I believe we were sent to her specifically for a reason. We later had our pediatrician tell us that if we hadn't went through a specific testing, we would have never known his exact syndrome. While waiting on this testing, I was a mess. As you can see, I'm a crier. The wait was horrific. When you're waiting on this test, it seems like it's forever. I kept praying, but deep in my heart, I knew something was wrong. I had known since conception something wasn't right. I remember praying. They called with a follow-up the day before. Life as we knew it was about to change. I was sitting alone in my breakfast nook, begging and pleading for God not to give my child this life, not to give our family this life. I finally said, okay, if I know you're with me, I can do this. There was an audible voice that said, I am. I got up, walked into my living room. There was still just me in the house. God had spoken to me out loud. Immediately, I went to my knees, begging him to forgive me, because I felt like I had doubt in that moment. So, the next day, when we went for the results, Matt had to work. My mom was with me. She said, "You are so calm." I told her the story, and I said, "It's going to be okay." At that time, I did not know why I had been given this audible blessing, but as time went on, and I understood. In the book of Exodus, after the Israelites had been saved, they still doubted God, even after being freed and saved from the Egyptians. They later complained to Moses they were starving and dying of thirst. I think when I read this, I tend to think, wow, how could they doubt after all that they had seen and heard? But I get it. I was angry with God, even after the blessing, for putting my children and our family through this. I doubted his love and my faith during the first year or so. It was rough. I always would go back to those precious words that God gave me. I am. When I was at the bottom, watching my child learn to walk with a walker, knowing he would be nonverbal, also how it affected our other son. He was often forced onto other people or family members to do events and activities because of Cole's behavior. Angelman syndrome comes with a lot of behaviors. It does get better as they get older, but when they're younger, there's quite a few, and they still occur. It has also been rough on our marriage. We cannot just pick up, go to dinner without a plan, or go on a hike without a sitter. We sometimes have to pick who is going to an event if we don't have someone to stay with Colt. We have managed to keep a handful of friends that understand our lives. We have adjusted, but it was not and still is not always easy. However, I will say Colt has made us and everybody he touches better people. In Exodus 3:13 through 14, it says, Then Moses said to God, If I come to the people of Israel and I say to them, The God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask me, What is his name? What shall I say to them? God said to Moses, I am who I am. And he said, Say this to the people of Israel, I am has sent me to you. In John 13:19, I am telling you this now, before it takes place, that when it does take place, you may believe that I am he. In John 6:35, Jesus said to them, I am the bread of the life. Whoever comes to me shall not hunger, and whoever believes in me shall not thirst. John 8:12. Again, Jesus spoke to them, saying, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light. Jesus refers to himself as the I am several more times in the book of John. In Acts 7:31 through 32, when Moses saw it, referring to the flame of the fire in the bush, he was amazed at the sign, and he saw as he drew near to look, there came the voice of the Lord, I am the God of the fathers, the God of Abraham and of Isaac and of Jacob. And Moses trembled and did not dare to look. Our children, God's children, are 26 and 21 now. I still cling to those words that God blessed me with that day in the kitchen in my desperation and begging. I realized that God gave me these words because he knew I would have really bad days, and I did. I turned away from him many times in those dark moments. However, even though I turned away from him, he never left me and was gracious to allow me back in with open arms and forgiveness. I continue to grow in faith and strength, giving others the same help along the way. From my experience in life, I truly trust the great I am for who he is and what he has done in my life. Let us pray. God, thank you for this beautiful, sometimes messy life, for loaning me your children and allowing me to be their mama. Please bless all the moms today, and most of all, thank you for your son. It's in his precious name that I pray. Amen.
Hello. I'm Megan. Wow, this mom thing's pretty easy, right? right? No, no one ever says that. I don't either. What we're more likely to say as moms with our friends, our mom friends, is, I don't got this. I'm a mess. Wow, they're growing up fast. I can't keep up. I'm tired. I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm tired. Matter of fact, just when I think that things are starting to get easier, and we just finished a really difficult phase, and it's like, oh, time to relax. It's time for another difficult phase to start, and I'm putting my seatbelt on and ready for this ride. As a woman, the pressure's on. The expectation is to have perfectly well-behaved kids, perfectly balanced meals 3 times a day, perfectly balanced schedule, hair done, makeup done, house clean, laundry done, exercise. You got to have that hot mom bod, right? And with all of your free time, make dinner, invite friends and family over. We all do that, right? No. Are you kidding me? I am a disaster. And 2 Corinthians 12:19 says, "My grace is all you need. My power works best in weakness." It's not our job to be perfect. We as women, whether to mothers, we as mothers, to other small children, grown children, grandchildren, aunts, or those of you that have been put in positions of motherhood like teachers or nurses, we as women bring so much life into this world, literally and symbolically. We are nurturers, providers, encouragers, problem solvers, and chauffeurs. We can cultivate something truly beautiful in this world around us, but not perfect. That's God's job. But beauty, we can do that. Beauty is found in the mess when you include Jesus in your lives. Our strength doesn't come from what we do, but what he has already done. So what drives us to thinking we have to do it all the time? Well, for some of us, it's fear of letting our families down. For some, it's proving that we're worthy. Or for others, it's comparing ourselves to others. Comparing yourselves maybe to the momogrammers who have their ballerina careers. They have a sourdough starter, and they're homeschooling their 20 kids in a perfectly clean house, and they're done up so nice. It's fake. It's all lies. Comparing ourselves to others is Satan's way of making us feel like we're not good enough, that you're the only one out there struggling, and it's isolating you, making you feel alone when you're not. Keep your eyes on Jesus. He isn't disappointed in you. You didn't let him down. So maybe things aren't going according to your plan. I never was a fly girl on In Living Color. I really wanted to do that, didn't I, Mom and Dad? My career didn't take off in dance. My sourdough starter did not bubble the way it was supposed to. And that's okay. Because what you're doing right now is according to his plan. And trust me, he has planned for your life way longer than you have. He knows you, so trust him. Talk to him. What God wants is for us to be together, keeping our eyes on him. There isn't one perfect way to mother or aunt or teach. What works for some doesn't work for others, and that's okay. That's beautiful. We shouldn't be the same, so meet him in the chaos. We can do that. Let's allow our children, young and old, to see our relationship with God. And let's let go of the cultural baggage that's unrealistic expectations, let's face it. Jeremiah 31:3 says, "I have loved you with everlasting love. I have drawn you with unfailing kindness." So let's be in this season that we're in right now, that God has already planned for us. Every season has both good and bad. So let's be present. And give yourself some grace, and give those beautiful children that you've been blessed with grace as well. It's all our first times on this planet, so mistakes are going to happen. It's the love that you give and that you carry with you to everyone around that will make a difference. His grace is all you need. And thank you, God. His power works best in weakness. Thank you.
All right, so first I have a picture of who made me a mom. Those are my beautiful kids, Kyle, Coley, and Katie. And Coley and Katie are both here today. So who here feels like they've been on a roller coaster already this morning? I'm exhausted. So tired. So it's kind of funny that I titled my message, The Roller Coaster. It's a really good way to describe motherhood and just life in general, I think. Endless ups and downs, twists and turns, unexpected upside downs, stop starts, breakdowns, waiting in line. The list goes on and on. And my motherhood roller coaster ride started something like this. Kyle arrived. Please don't hold this picture against me. Kyle arrived 8 weeks earlier than planned, just a few months after I had turned 19. And even though he came 8 weeks early, he took his good old time. Slow and steady wins the race. That was always Kyle, took his time. I was in labor for 2 days. They handed me this tiny little 3-pound, 2-ounce baby. I had never been around a baby. I was terrified. I thought for sure somehow I was going to break him. We had milestones and setbacks, and he taught me how to be a mom. Mistakes were definitely made. But we just kept moving forward together, and somehow we made it. 21 months later, my baby Katie arrived. Baby number 2, just a month before my 21st birthday. And Katie arrived in true Katie fashion in her time. 2 weeks early and fast. The doctor barely made it in the room in time, and Katie took matters into her own hands. I basically did nothing. She made quite an entrance. This time, I left the hospital full of confidence and ready to tackle the mom of 2 life, and that love just doubled. I thought I had it all figured out at this point, but Kyle and Katie, of course, had other plans. Now, Katie's first year was actually pretty smooth. Uneventful, just living in this season of bliss, in between all the chaos and the tears, of course. And then the first roller coaster turn came. Kyle jumped off the couch and broke his femur. And this is where we landed, in Ruby, for 6 weeks of traction. If you want to go to the other picture, he was like this for 6 weeks. And then we go back to the other one with the cast, and then we were in a body cast. We had just finished potty training, so he couldn't move. I had to pick him up and hold him like this across the toilet because there was no bend in the body cast, and that was right in the middle of the summer, and he was 3 years old, so that was fun. We all survived it, though, and he healed, and we got back on the ride. Now, Katie kept me on my toes. She was the girliest girly girl in frills and bows 1 minute and up to her elbows in a mud puddle the next. My daredevil, wild child, climber, sleepwalker, never a dull moment. She did things like pull TVs over on top of her or sit on top of the refrigerator. She rode her bike down the driveway into traffic once, and a few times fell down our steps and knocked herself out cold by hitting her head on the banister at the bottom of the steps. She kept me on my toes. But I ran across this pic while looking for pictures, and it reminded me of the summer of the hats. Katie had a hat that summer that matched every outfit because she knew that beauty school was in her future when she cut all of her bangs off. So me, being stylish mama, had a hat to match every outfit because we were not going in public like that. She is much better at cutting hair now, I will say that. The next several years were filled with laughter and tears and growing up and learning together. Dance and gymnastics and soccer and t-ball, church programs, choir concerts, vacations. Hospital trips sprinkled in for Kyle's asthma attacks as he was diagnosed at 3 years old with asthma. Many memories and mistakes were made. Toddlers grew into school kids and into young adults while I wasn't looking. And then another curve. We moved halfway across the country. But thankfully, that didn't last very long, and we landed back here. Fast forward, I'm in my mid-30s with 2 kids in high school, and into my life walks this amazing man who's a single dad with this beautiful, I'm gonna start crying, with this beautiful brown-eyed boy. I always knew that I had a third child. And even though I did not carry him, I carried him in my heart. And my family of 3 became a family of 5. My missing piece, my third baby. I did not need to give birth to him to know that I was meant to be his mom, my Coley. Level-headed, smart, handsome, and athletic, and that love just tripled. I would love to say by this time I knew everything about being a mom, right? Nope. Typical mom stuff. Craziness with marshmallows, and I love the next one, a big old bump on his head. But I will say, thankfully, so far, Coley has been my easiest and least difficult child. Finally, I'm in my mom groove, and we are thriving. The kids are happy, and life is good. I got an amazing job. We're on the tracks. Things are good. I'm content for maybe the first time in my life. But this is where the coaster goes off the tracks. We lost Kyle, my first baby. He passed away in May of 2020. And the last time I saw him was just before Mother's Day that year when he showed up to surprise me. COVID shutdowns had started, and because Kyle had asthma, I was very adamant that he was not allowed to go anywhere. You are not allowed to leave your house. He had been stuck inside for 2 months by himself, and he was over it. So he showed up at the house right before Mother's Day, and I'm sure that a lot of you have seen the picture of Kyle sitting on my couch with his guitar, or maybe even seen videos I've posted on Facebook of him. I wouldn't let him get near me. He was 10 feet away the whole time he was at my house. But he sat and played his guitar, and something inside me just kept telling me, like, I needed to video him that day. And that was a God thing because he hated pictures, he hated videos, but I got some videos of him playing his guitar, which was amazing. And today is actually the first Mother's Day I have been here since he passed away. As you can imagine, I fell apart. Being a parent is hard when things are good, but to be a mom to a child that's no longer here is the hardest thing I've ever done. Probably the hardest thing I ever will do. And still having to show up, participate, and smile, and be present for your job and the 2 kids that are still here. And I just kept thinking to myself, how am I going to do this? But I didn't. Well, not alone. God was with me through every step. He is the reason that I did it, and I continue to. People will say to me, Tina, I don't know how you do it, or you're so strong. And I never know how to respond when people say that to me because it's not me. Every ounce of strength comes from him, and I give him all of the glory. Was I destroyed? Yes. Broken? Yes. Angry? Yes. But I eventually realized that God's plan was not to take my son away from me. It was to use me in the aftermath of that loss. In the midst of my grief, where I was, where I am right now, the way that he is using me, that was the plan. It was not to take him from me. God loves us so much through all of the good and all of the bad. He never leaves us, never forsakes us. He loved us so much, he gave his only son to die for us. 1 Corinthians 13, 4-7 is a verse that's used in weddings a lot, but this verse really makes me think of motherhood. Love is patient and love is kind. Love is not jealous or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It is not irritable, and it keeps no record of being wronged. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through every circumstance. Now, am I always patient? Why don't we all look to my kids for this answer? Am I always kind? No, I am not. Do I demand my own way? What do we think? Does Tina demand her own way? Yes, Tina does. But I am human, and I am a work in progress. The good news is that love never gives up. It never loses faith. It is always hopeful and endures through every circumstance because God is love. Now, I'm not going to stand here and say I have it all figured out because I don't. I'm a mess most of the time. I saw this slide, and I feel like it so goes along with every message this morning, and it says, my entire life can be summed up in one sentence. Well, that didn't go as planned. Who else feels that way? Yeah. Oh, my. But his plan is greater than my plan, and that's why my plans don't go as planned. So I'm going to tell you a little story. Back in 2019, I saw a post on Facebook that said they were offering discounted season passes to Cedar Point. And if there is one thing you know about me and Kyle and Katie, it's that we are roller coaster enthusiasts. We absolutely love coasters. So I bought these season passes as an early Christmas gift, and I texted both of them. Of course, they're adults at this time. We all have jobs, and we all decided, you know what, in 3 days, that's it. We're going to Cedar Point. We're going right now. We all took off work. We got in the car, and we drove to Cedar Point, and that was in 2019. That was probably the best trip I have ever had with my 2 older kids. They did not fight. I kept thinking all day, what is going on? There were no arguments, and we just had the best time, and we rode everything so many times. And I had a video I was going to show, but it tilts in the middle, and it looks like we're like going into the ground, so it didn't work. But this is our favorite roller coaster. This is Millennium Force. Has anybody here been on Millennium Force at Cedar Point? My favorite roller coaster. All right, so I'm going to ask this. Who in here likes a literal roller coaster? Not the life roller coaster, but literal roller coasters. How many roller coaster fans do we have? All right, so you know that feeling that you have when you're going up the hill? That anxiety and anticipation and worry about like what's coming, especially if you haven't been on that coaster. And then you crest the top of that first hill. And at least for me, there's this moment where you go over, and I do not hold on a roller coaster. My hands are in the air. So we go over that first hill, and your hands are in the air, and you have this moment where you're weightless. You don't have a worry, just bliss. And then you go down the hill, and then the twists and turns and loops and everything happens, and you barely have time to think. And then the ride is over. My challenge for you is to have that weightless, no worry feeling while going up the hill. Not just down. Through all the chaos of the ride, because God is with you through all of it. He's with you through the anticipation and the anxiety. He's with you through the happy times and the excitement, and he's with you through all the chaos and the twists and turns that life brings. He's got you because it's his plan. So there is a song that I heard a few months ago, and of course I cried the whole way through it because I'm a crier. It is called Proof. And I sent it to a few people, and it sounds like a few people had already sent it to a few other people. So this song was already kind of going around within our congregation. And I looked up the title or the definition of proof. And the definition of proof is evidence or argument establishing or helping to establish a fact or the truth of a statement. And we are the proof of God's love. Because we're here. So no matter what struggles we faced or will face in the future, we are still here. And God is with us. He loves us. And we are the proof of that because we keep breathing. We keep going. And we keep trusting.